You know, in a world where it feels like every single tech company is in a mad dash to cram AI into literally everything, one of the most important privacy tools on the planet just slammed on the brakes and threw the whole thing in reverse. This is a story about a really radical choice. Okay, so let's just break this down. On one side, you've got the entire industry, Chrome, Edge, Safari, even its open source cousin Firefox. And they are all shoving AI chatbots into their browsers as fast as humanly possible. And then on the other side, you've got Tor browser standing all by itself, making a very deliberate choice to delete all AI. It's a fascinating move, right? And the reason why is, well, it's a direct challenge to the entire tech world. And look, we're not talking about some tiny little change or a setting you can toggle off. No. This was a statement. The developers went into the very foundation of the browser and performed what you could call major surgery, ripping out features that pretty much everyone else is calling the future. So in their latest version, Tor Browser 15, the developers went in and surgically removed every single hook into the biggest names in AI. We're talking ChatGPT, Claude, and Google Gemini. Just think about that for a second. They actively tore out the very things that Mozilla, whose code is the base for Tor Browser, had spent months building in. So why go against the grain so hard? Well, the answer gets right to the very heart of what Tor is all about. It comes down to this fundamental clash of principles, the mission of total privacy versus the very nature of modern AI. And the reasoning from the Tor project itself is incredibly blunt. They said that AI and machine learning platforms are, and I'm quoting here, inherently unauditable. Wow, that is a powerful claim. But what does unauditable actually mean? An unauditable system is basically a black box. Even the brilliant people who build these massive AI models can't fully predict or explain why they give a specific answer. And that means no security expert on Earth can truly 100% verify what's happening with your data once you send it in. So guaranteeing your privacy? It's pretty much impossible. And that right there is the core problem for Tor. Its entire reason for existing is to provide anonymity, often against really powerful adversaries like government agencies. So, for them to include a feature that sends your data into some mysterious, unauditable black box owned by a giant tech company, that's not just a bad feature, it goes against everything they stand for. It's a fundamental contradiction. So, if the Tor dev team wasn't spending all their time trying to integrate AI, what were they doing? Well, they were focusing on the absolute bedrock of the browser, patching really serious security holes that could put their users at risk. This one number just says it all. 12. That is how many high-severity vulnerabilities they fixed in this new release. And these aren't just minor typos or cosmetic bugs. These are the exact kinds of flaws that malicious attackers are actively hunting for. And just to be clear, we're talking about some really nasty stuff here. Things like memory corruption bugs that can crash your browser or even run malicious code, so-called use-after-free flaws, which is a fancy way of saying an attacker can hijack a piece of your computer's memory. And maybe most critical of all, exploits that can break down the digital walls that are supposed to keep different parts of your browser safe from each other. Let me just walk you through how one of these could have worked. So imagine a malicious website sends a simple graphics command to your browser, but it lies about how big it is. That tricky command crosses a secure boundary inside your browser and fools a more powerful process into accessing memory it has no business touching. And the result? The attacker could potentially steal your data, or even worse, take control. This is the kind of critical stuff Tor was fixing. But hey, rejecting AI and patching holes doesn't mean the browser is just sitting still. Actually, by focusing their resources, the Tor team was able to add several great new features that directly make things better for you, the user, while also boosting your privacy. So in this new version, you now get vertical tabs, which let you stick them in a sidebar. It's fantastic if you're like me and have way too many tabs open. You can also group tabs now into these neat, collapsible, color-coded collections. For Android users, there's a new screen lock for your session. And finally, they've stripped out all the old Mozilla branding, giving you a much cleaner experience that, importantly, doesn't ping Mozilla servers. What all this really shows is a different definition of what progress means. Instead of just chasing the latest, buzziest trend, Tor is doubling down on tangible improvements that make the browser safer and easier to use for the people who truly depend on it. You know, Tor's decision here does a lot more than just update a piece of software. It really draws a line in the sand, and it brings up a huge question about the future of the internet and the tools that we all use to get there. And this forward-looking mindset applies to their security roadmap, too. They've laid out a plan to end support for older, less secure computer architectures by the middle of 2026. This move lets them focus all their energy on modern platforms that have much stronger security built in from the ground up. Again, putting user safety way ahead of just supporting old hardware.
At the end of the day, this whole thing forces every single one of us to think about a really critical question. When does adding a popular, data-hungry new feature actually break the core promise of the tool you're using? Tor has given its answer, loud and clear.
And that really leaves us with this final thought to chew on. As AI gets woven more and more into our digital lives, are we heading for a future where we're actually forced to make a choice? A future where the web can either be smart or it can be private, but maybe it just can't be both.